Hey everybody, welcome to our first leadership event. Thanks everybody for attending. Just a quick shout out to see if you can all hear me, and obviously you see everything on the screen. So if you could just pop something down the bottom right corner. Yeah, good. So look, I think we're just waiting for a couple more, but we can kind of kick off as it is now. So look, just a quick intro for myself. My name's David. I'm a lead recruiter here at Sigmar. We're a top Irish recruitment company, and we cover mainly the EMEA region. So we're part of Group Adequate, one of the largest staffing firms in the world with offices in over 4 continents. So I suppose this will be the first of many events that we're looking to hold in the coming months, obviously in the lead up to Christmas. Most of them will be virtual, unfortunately, due to obviously current restrictions. So I suppose the whole aim of everything of the event is kind of to grow a community of leaders who can kind of lean on each other for knowledge, guidance, and hopefully some good relationships in terms of working relationships, but also maybe friendships can kind of come from it. So in our experience, look, we run a lot of kind of events in Ireland, Berlin, and obviously this will be the first in Amsterdam and Paris, but we've kind of seen that there's not many events aimed at like tech leaders. They a lot of kind of tend to focus coming from a HR kind of perspective. So we thought kind of who better to help guide tech talent and obviously tech people themselves. So in terms of today, the topics that we're going to be discussing are exploring the challenges of creating a culture of kind of automation. So the challenges of personal productivity during these times that we're all facing. So I'm delighted to be joined by Mitya, Gladyshev, who is a technical manager at Backbase in Amsterdam, and Luiz, who's lead engineer at Greetz, also based in Amsterdam.
Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, so at the end of each presentation, look, we'll have a few minutes to kind of ask any questions you may have. So please feel free to interact with our speakers as much as possible. Ask the question box down below and I can feed them to it after. And also if you just want to introduce yourselves and tell us where you're coming from, that's great. Just to introduce it in the bottom right corner as well. So just a little intro about our speakers. So Mitya, he's been in IT for over 10 years. He's a technical manager now at Backbase in Amsterdam for the past 6 or 7 months, I think. He's been leading teams for the last number of years and has experience obviously leading people remotely from Russia, USA, and now in Amsterdam as well. So he's going to be speaking a lot about personal productivity for remote engineering leaders and the challenges we're all facing during these kind of unprecedented times. And Luiz will be a bit more technical inside, and he will be speaking obviously about the kind of from long releases to continuous deployment. And just a background on Luiz, he's been in the tech world for over 20 years. He's founded startups in Brazil, has worked in Ireland for a couple of years and got sick of us and then moved to Amsterdam. So look, thank you guys very much for volunteering. We really do appreciate it. And obviously for Mitya stepping in, I think it was last Thursday, to save the event after we've had a cancellation. So much appreciated, to put in a lot of work over the weekend and your own spare time. So it is appreciated. So look, I'll leave it at that. That's enough for me. I'm sure you're here to listen to Luiz and Mitya and not from me. So look, Luiz, if you wouldn't mind taking it away. And look, guys, we take your questions in the coming minutes. Okay.
Okay, good stuff. So, well, I hope everybody can hear me properly also. So if you cannot hear me, just let me know on the menu and I'll be typing like crazy. Let me just share my screen first. And there you go. Bam, bam. So I hope everybody can see my screen. I'm not, I cannot see the menus right now. So let's get started. Well, I'm going to talk about how we went from long releases to continuous deployment at Greetz. It was not only technical challenges, but also things on soft skills. Firstly, I believe David already gave a good overview on who I am. I'm on the old side already, so I have more white hair than everybody combined, I think. I lead teams that were not that big, so up to 14, 15 people, but usually my influence was spread outside. So I kind of even gave mentoring to people that was not under my umbrella quite a few times. But I'm a developer by heart, which means I have all of the issues that you can imagine, organizing myself, etc. So I'm just a normal person like everybody here. So today, what I'm going to talk about, it is mostly based on my experience at Greetz. I'm going to give the context of the scenario that I got when we started there. I'm going to talk a bit about the branching strategy changes and the deployment changes that happened together. I'll be talking a bit about automation, a bit how those things have helped removing the silos and getting the stress out of the projects, and a bunch of lessons learned. I tried to make the talk as generic as possible. So I'm not talking about Maven, Ansible, Docker, nothing of those things, but I can answer on those topics if I have any. So let's keep going. Context. So before, we did a release every 2 months, which means there were like a few sprint cycles happening, lots of merges happening in a branch that didn't reflect production. On the deploy, we would run so many things, like we would deploy lots of applications, like all of our platform, by the time it was 20 applications, if you count microservices and legacy applications. Nowadays, it is up to 50 already. So we would deploy each of those applications, changes in the database, and hope for the best. Let's hope it works. The code base was a bit fragile because if you keep 2 months doing changes and expect things to work out right away on production, well, you're going to have a bad time. After those changes that I'll be talking about today, or some of those changes, because in fact there were like many, we deploy a few times a day, always following a bunch of rules. So we never do big deploys. We always go in small pieces. We don't perform offline, because before we would stay offline for sometimes even 8 hours. So we would stay awake during the night, taking a look on how the deploy procedures were, if they were good or not. So nowadays we are always online, which means we are always selling. I work in a web shop, so sales are important. And the code base is stabler. It is perfect? No, it is not perfect. I wish it was. But it is way less, it is much better than it was before. So the branching strategy that I mentioned, that I consider the key change we did. We do have this, before, the branching strategy was Git flow. I don't know how many people are familiar with Git flow. I suppose a bunch of you guys are using Git flow. I used Git flow myself a few times. Basically, you have one developed branch, this one that is marked as yellow, that is always happening during the sprints. And you have the release on production, that is a branch master in blue. The release on production, it happens when things are tested and stable. There are feature branches that are running in parallel all the time. And, well, it is nice in theory, but then we have a problem on production, which means we need to merge and on master. We keep running major feature branches for projects. When merging those things back, we are going to have conflicts. So besides the conflict, sometimes just pulling master to the branch and updating, it was not easy. Like, it works, it is beautiful in theory, but it is something that requires discipline, because people should be always updating master and retesting. And by the end, master was just exercised on production. So everybody was looking at develop all the time, and sometimes people would look at master, test for a few hours, and then let's go to deploy. It wasn't that good. So yeah, the branching strategy went on our way, having impact on the deployment procedures and so on and so forth. So we changed it to single master or trunk-based development, if you look for documentation on the internet. And basically what it means is, as soon as you have merged something on master, you deploy. There are a few things here that we needed to do in order to achieve that. So setting up the deployment to have more automation on some parts, we needed to do canary deployments. But in fact, working with that means production is how we solved most of, well, not most, but the majority of the problems we had. So what did we do to start using the single master? Well, first, I didn't write it here, but I needed to convince people it would be a good idea. And that was really difficult because we didn't have a stable code base. So everybody would be afraid of breaking something because, hey, stuff is always broken, right? So basically getting the agreement of key people. So the CTO agreed and half of the leaders agreed. The other half, they didn't agree. So the CTO together with half of the lead developers, we took a decision. We are going to give it a try. We are going to try single master. And before that, we have tried other branching strategies that didn't work. So it was a bit of try and error, but we kept trying. We got to the last state on production, and we called it master because for the projects, by the end, some projects, they were using a different branching strategy. So we discovered that, like, not everybody's following the rules we have. Big merges got forbidden. We got the stable code base. We had a few projects running, and everybody, hey, let's merge those projects. And the answer was no. We will have it on production first, and we are going to do small merges only. So once we have the last state on production, the master reflecting what is running, we open the branches for small merges and for small deploys. So instead of deploying 20 plus applications, we were deploying one application. Instead of deploying 2 months of development, we deployed a few days of development. So basically, the incremental deploys got things really stable. Being on production means developers will be afraid of breaking stuff, which is good and bad at the same time because the innovation suffers a bit, but at the same time, we don't live a lie. If somebody says, hey, something is ready, it means it is running on production ready. It was not those reviews that you say, hey, I developed everything, and hopefully things will be deployed at some point. Let's go to the next development. So going to the next ticket was forbidden. Then, what does changing the branching strategy and simplifying it, what does it have to do with removing silos? Because, well, one thing is purely technical, and silos are something of a culture in the companies. The teams used to be divided by technology. So we had the backend Java team, the front end Node.js JavaScript team. We had a mobile team. So the teams, they didn't talk with each other. What happened is the POs, they would put on each other stuff, on each other backlogs, some tasks. They would be fighting to get priority. So even the POs, they were a bit stressed. But if I am the PO of my team, I will give priority to my stuff, for example. So this kind of issues, they always happened. There was lots of bureaucracy. There were finger pointing. So it is never my fault. It is fault from that other guy because something broke. So sometimes the stuff were merged on develop, but it was not. It didn't go to production in one team, but on the other team it went on production. So the issue was found on production months later when somebody did something. So basically, everybody was afraid to go to production. Everybody wants to keep writing code. Nobody wanted to go to production. And you guess what? I think Greetz is one of the companies that started to apply the Spotify model, as people call it. So, but by the end, what made a difference for us is to have full stack teams. So the teams, they had front end, back end, mobile developers. They had QAs also. The POs, and everybody was working together, which means, hey, the shopping basket is broken. It was broken by somebody in the team. And the shopping basket is broken, for example, but we deployed just a few minutes ago. So it would be easy to fix the problem because it's fresh. And everybody can merge. We do have a process for approving changes. It is not like, hey, let's commit everything on master. but the rules are the same because the branching strategy was really easy. We just need people to review code, and we have a bunch of tests that needs to pass, and that was it. So the silos got removed by simply getting the platform more stable as a result of the changes on the branching strategy and on simplifying the deployment. How we did it, again, it was, this one was a bit easier to do because we have done a successful deployment strategy migration. So in order to continue the improvements, we think we should do this, and that. For you guys as a POs, you're going to do everything on your team. You won't depend on other teams. So it was appealing for the POs. It was appealing for the whole company to be able to work in an independent way. So stabilizing things first changed a lot to get the idea approved. Changing the team structure was not done in a go because we wanted to test if it would work. So we started by creating one squad. We started to pick up a few developers from each team. The other teams were doing business as usual. And then people saw, hey, this new team that is a full stack is doing more things now. And it is not breaking so often. So then we did the second, the third, and the fourth. So we have 4 full stack teams nowadays. With remote developers, by the way, like the majority is remote. Dividing the right domains was the challenging part because, for example, for us at Greetz, shopping basket and fulfillment are the things that changed most often. So we have one team dedicated to buy, one team dedicated to we call deliver, that is fulfillment, and the other remainder teams, they have similar domains together. So that this was the challenge, to pick the domains that would be similar to each other. And we did incremental as we are doing the deploys. There are a few lessons learned here because, of course, it wasn't easy. I had a question just before the presentation, and how long did it take? Actually, it is still happening in some point because we are still changing the deployment structure. But this was a project that we started 2.5 years ago. I think it took like 3-4 months to get things rolling properly. So it was not something, hey, I changed the branching strategy, everything are flowers. No, far from that, unfortunately. But the important stuff is just to use single master. No, the important thing is accelerate the time to production. So you need to identify on your pipeline what slows things down to go to production. It is we have like a full set of integration tests or something. Maybe you want to reduce that. You don't want to make it mandatory for the deployments. Or we have so many dependencies. We have a difficult time creating versions of libraries. Well, you need to automate that. So get the manual work that is always on the way, or the work that nobody wants to do, and either automate or simplify that. Making reverting easy and possible. It was the other thing that made things work well for us. Basically, everything needs to be backwards compatible. You're changing an API, you're not going to change an API. You're going to make a new endpoint available, and when the new endpoint is used and the old one is not used, you remove. Database. You don't do destructive changes. You don't delete stuff that is in use. You don't remove columns. You need to make sure that when you apply the new version, the old version is still can still run. Because what happens very often is, hey, can we go to production? Yes. I'm checking. Oh, we have so many errors. Let's go back to the previous version. Or even canary deployments can help here also. I got the habit of going to each of the departments. Nowadays, I'm doing it via Slack. But it is always good to check with the POs. Hey, what is slowing things down with your developers and yourself? With the operations, if you have an operations department, at Greetz we do have a fulfillment department. And the most important, customer services. The customer will always be better than any monitoring tool. Sometimes things were broken, but we didn't get the errors on our monitoring systems, either by mistakes or by bad luck, lack of configuration, etc. So I use it to go every day on those departments, especially customer services, and check, okay, what is the issue of the day? When I stopped going there every day, it was because the platform was way, way better. So the simplifying the branching strategy was key for that. The go to production was key for that. Just going quickly here because I have spoken about those things. There are things that I didn't cover in the talk, but especially if you have a web shop or if you have online service, it is good to look at feature toggles. This also helped us a lot. You need to have production visibility, which endpoints are giving errors or not. And one thing that was difficult at Greetz is to have focus on the teams to work on the right thing to get stable. So yeah, that was it. Thank you all very much. I'm going to unshare my screen, and we have a few minutes for questions.
Great, thank you very much, Luiz, obviously for giving the presentation. So, look, I can welcome anybody to ask any questions through the ask a question box down below, or obviously in the say something nice box. But obviously, I have a question that has come through anyway, and Luiz, I suppose we had briefly spoken before about how I suppose COVID maybe didn't affect you guys too much due to the fact that you guys were 100% remote. But I suppose
not 100, but mostly remote. Yeah.
Yeah. So with I suppose the whole, you say it's still continuing. I suppose to these days to the day. I suppose is there something that would maybe crop up, I suppose, every couple of days that is the kind of major issue, whether it be just from managing team members or whether it's just due from a technical side?
Yeah. So from me, I think if we have gotten the COVID 2 years and a half ago, or even 3 years ago, it would have been a disaster. Because since things are not stable, having the person contact was like super required. The team was a bit not trusting even the process and even the new lead, because I was replacing a guy that was like in the company for really long, so nobody knew what to expect. Today we were lucky because the platform is stable, which means after the sales increased, we didn't get too many bugs happening, because managing the bugging flow was difficult. The production bugs, I mean. Another thing that was a bit that was good for us, the sales increased a lot. So we got a few projects delayed because the sales are going too good and we don't want to risk the platform. But it was a decision. Like everybody agreed on stopping things a bit until we don't have a peak anymore. Because peak behavior, we are not. We only deploy things that are super duper safe. We don't take any risks during peak periods. But in truth, we got lucky. Haven't it happened a while ago, I would be in a bad situation, I think.
Okay, so we have another couple of questions come in. So this one's from Valentin. So he has asked, how much time ago were you guys still doing like big bang releases using GitFlow?
So basically, 2 years and a half ago is from what I remember in my memory. We were doing that, and everybody was happy with it for some strange reason. Okay, I'm not blaming GitFlow itself, but it didn't work well for us because it slowed the time to production. So there is another question. Valentin, if you can confirm in the chat that you're happy with the answer, or if you want to ask a follow-up question, please do. Because I can just be saying blah, blah, blah here and not providing value. So I want to make sure that that I'm providing value to you guys. I have a question from Mitya. Hello. What was the hardest thing?
Hey, Luiz.
What?
Do you want me to voice it?
I'm sorry?
I can voice it for you. So the question is, during this transition period, right, what was the hardest thing for you personally, right? So obviously it was also the team effort, but for you personally, what was the main struggle?
So there was a specific part of the deployment process that nobody wanted to do. Every 2 months, they would simply rotate developers, like with a few deployments happening per week. So it wasn't even that fast. I think I spent, I don't know, like 2 weeks developing the deployment scripts to change the library versions. Not everybody agreed with the strategy. So I had a hard time convincing people. I wasn't used to the Dutch culture yet. Like Dutch people can ask questions all the time and challenge you all the time. So for me, it was a learning experience from a cultural point of view. Nowadays, if somebody challenges me, I challenge back, and then at some point, everybody's happy. The time I was a bit nice. I had too much on my plate. But at some point, I just decided, okay, I will simply do that first. I will automate the thing that nobody wants to do. So I think it is not generic. It is something that is Greetz specific. Did I answer your question, Mitya?
Yeah, quite clearly. I think if we spoke about Dutch culture is also, it's a good thing, the transparency, because it enables you at the same time to be blunt about things that don't work, right? So it helped you, I guess, as well.
Yeah. So well, for me, it was a learning experience. By the time I was a bit negative with the whole thing. Nowadays, I'm happy and I'm doing the same things. Also, if I see something, I will be challenged. I'll challenge people just to make sure people thought about it with a good, a good amount of effort. There is a question about feature flags. Feature flags is the same thing as feature toggles or dark deployments. So for Greetz, it was also something that permitted us to go with the single branch strategy because we would deploy code that was not used, and then we could enable and disable things. So if we enable, okay, no, not many errors. That's nice. Let's keep going. So we do at some point some tests on production, but we can revert things quickly. So Valentin, if I didn't answer your question, let me know in the comments. What was the hardest thing? Yes. When you had a big bugging flow, as you mentioned, how did you manage to move forward with this transformation and find time for what really matters while firefighting mode? Yes. So to give priority to the bugs, I relied on CS. So on customer services. So because if you go to most of the people that want to have sales, and we had sales, but we couldn't deliver the cards that we were selling in some cases. So this was how I gave priority to the amount of bugging flows. Greetz was in the Telegraph a few years ago. The Telegraph was mentioning 7,000 people didn't receive their Valentine's cards or gifts. And it was my fault, apparently, because I was the lead of the team that I have joined just like 2 months ago or something. So that one gave like a really, really easy strategy to choose what is the bug to use. So giving a bit of more process, instead of asking for CS, you need to check how much people are affected for the bug. Some people say, I need to check with sales. Well, sales is one of the thermometers, but the amount of people, because you don't want to be spending time on a bug that affects one person a week, having, 100 people per day being affected by other things. So you need to get priority by quantity, by how much this bug affects, how many people the bug affects, and how many people got affected in the office. Because sometimes you have one bug that is not even important enough, but it stops like 5 people, 10 people that could be fixing other stuff or that could be delivering value. Myself, I am in the opinion that everybody should be doing 0 bugs, but it is not realistic saying that. Like nobody in those companies agrees with that. So I usually check the amount of people affected, both as a customer and in the office. Catherine, if I answered the question or if I didn't answer, let me know.
Okay, that's great. I think that if anybody has any more questions for Luiz, please do pop them in now. And if not, I think we've scheduled for an hour, so we can pop on and move forward to Mitya's presentation. So, Mitya, if you would like, obviously, to take it away, and obviously, thanks everybody for your questions for Luiz as well. Appreciate it.
Sure, and thanks, Luiz. Very nice presentation, very interesting. Okay, this is very nice that you also survived the whole transformation, which took a long time, right? So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's start. So the topic for today, it's a personal productivity for remote leaders. So Luiz's talk was more on the technical side. This is more like on an organizational or soft skills side, but nonetheless very important. Before I dive into that, however, let me introduce myself again. So my name is Mitya. I'm technical manager at Backbase. What I do is I'm managing chapters, and at the same time, I'm also doing architecture and guidance for the customers that we have at Backbase, which are banks. So I'm responsible for several accounts. And then when I joined Backbase, it was normal office company, but things escalated pretty fast with the lockdown. And I was lucky to work remotely for 3 years before joining Backbase. So I had ability to share some tips and tricks and so forth. And also that means I learned a lot of things hard way, making mistakes. So for today, I want to focus on enabling you to not repeat my mistakes if you're doing them. So we live in the world when we are forced to be remote. And the key word here is forced. That implies two things, basically. First, there is increased demand for productivity, right? And the increased expectation towards employees, because a lot of companies are not feeling well financially. For example, Booking.com announced just today that they are laying off 4,000 people, 25% of the workforce globally. And of course, they are in travel industry. Your industry might be not impacted that much, but still, the productivity is a very important topic, and being highly competitive on the market is important. On the other hand, the second factor is that pretty much even if you are productive and performant yourself in the remote setup, maybe you cannot achieve things because other people in your organization don't know how to be productive. So the real question we will discuss today is how to be productive even if the rest of the organization is not remotely. So let's start, and I want to tell you my story, basically. I joined a previous company 3 years ago remotely. It was 100% completely remote company. I was starting as an architect, and then I was promoted to tech lead, and then to the manager. And my old ways of working stopped being that efficient. And the way I was working before was this. So I had this nice shiny policy internally in my head to go for zero inbox, to respond to everything as fast as possible, whether it's Slack message or email or whatnot. And it worked very nice for me. It helps you build nice relationship with people because they always know that they can rely that you will reply to them very fast. But as you can imagine, when you grow as a technical leader, you get more and more work on your plate. So you have to prioritize, and you cannot do that if you always spontaneously reply to those notifications. And also it's quite destructive, right? So you cannot do focused work really. My response to that, I started working more and more and more. So it got to the point where I was working the normal day, replying to everything. And then I was doing focused work after everyone are going to sleep. So it was not very sustainable. So I did several tweaks. And for example, I turned off my notifications, especially on mobile. I defined special slots where I actually go through the email box, the standard stuff. Pretty much, I'm sure you're doing that as well. But then the lockdown happened, right? And suddenly, everything became a meeting in our company. So people, the scheduling stuff like crazy. I think it sounds familiar to your situation nowadays. And whenever they used to go to you and just tap you on the shoulder and ask things, they started scheduling like 30-minute meeting or something, which was crazy, and that overloaded me pretty quickly, and the rest of the organization as well. It's nice to chat about the weather. It's nice to have follow-up calls, resolve the compose the response to some email to customer on a call with others, but it's not productive at all, right? There is no time to work, and eventually the people you are scheduling calls with start to hate you. So I had to come up with something, and I got creative. And what I did, I decided, okay, I will be multitasking. I actually have this brain which allows me to do like synchronous translation from one language to another and like talk and listen at the same time. So I thought, okay, I'm good at this. I can multitask. So I was like on a meeting and writing the email in parallel window and chatting over Slack and thinking of something else. And that didn't quite work for me either, right? If it was like really stupid operational work, like a meeting where I don't need to be, I could have like just written an email, which is not very polite, but very productive, right? But if it was a meeting where I wanted to discuss the architecture, and at the same time I tried to do something like writing a message, it was super destructive, and it resulted in really cognitive overload. And so I had to take like several days off and think about stuff. And my next solution to the problem was this, the calendar junkie. So the calendar junkie is a person who has everything planned in the calendar, in both meetings and let's say not meetings, but focused work. Like I will, I don't know, go through the tickets on a Jira board in this hour. I will compose this message in this hour. I will do debug session in those 2 hours. And you plan it for the whole week ahead, preferably, which gives you immediate positive result. And that result is people have to plan to talk to you or to reach to you, or they have to rely on asynchronous communication, which is nice if you work remotely. So they just Slack you, or they start to ask like, can you just have a 5-minute talk with us? And you kind of agree to that. So it was quite nice. But the problem is, no matter how good planning I was doing a week up front, I was never following the agenda, and all the focused work was still postponed, and I was doing more like operational stuff, replying to endless messages during these focus periods, right? And it also was hard to be flexible. So yeah, I decided that I want something else. And then I started thinking, okay, what was my goal again? I wanted to be a very productive person at Backbase, and I wanted to achieve some nice stuff. And I was starting thinking hard, okay, what were my achievements for the past year, right? And what helped me to do that? So this is my achievements. I haven't quite reached this like mountain peak you see on this nice picture, but I got close. And just 3 examples. So in the past months, during the COVID, completely remotely, I managed to build a recruitment process and open a development center in another country. Last year, I revised the whole workflow of the team and enhanced work messenger we're using to integrate with Jira, CI/CD, GitHub, using a chatbot where you put inline commands like, I don't know, /build, /approve, /next. And that basically allowed the team to run in destruct-free mode and focus on the work at hand and just using the messenger and the ID instead of going to those portals and doing things manually. And then I also built up the team autonomy to the point where I was no longer needed, which I tested by leaving the company, and the team still operates kind of without a manager, so it's fine. So all those nice things I did. The problem is when I look at those nice things on one hand, and I look at those policies I used throughout the years, on another hand, they don't match, right? Not zero inbox policy hasn't helped me achieve those. Multitasking, no. Meetings, no. Calendar, not much, right? So what helped me is that I focused on what is important versus the operational work. And I want to talk to you about operational work because it's a real killer. And I want to say that this is something you still should be doing, but you shouldn't do that. You should do it in a fashion that prevents you from doing that again. And let me tell you about the approach I took several weeks ago, which already resulted in positive outcome. and I call it impactful actions. So the idea is that every time you have to do any kind of operational work, like reply to a message, do this review, or have a sync call with someone, you think very hard about one question: how do I do this in a way that I don't need to do that again? How can I replace it with some process? How can I delegate this, whatever? Because as a technical leader, the more you work and the more responsibility you get, the less time you have for operational work. It really kills you and prevents you from doing the best work of your life. So just 4 examples that I want to give you of how it works. So first is think lightweight process instead of repeatable event. So for example, I had these sync meetings between 2 chapters on a topic of when customers are going live and whatnot. And I attended one of those, and I realized that all the exchange was about this date, this go live date. So I suggested that we use some kind of mechanism like a document, and we got a spreadsheet with all the live dates and agreement that both chapters are updating it once a week. So now both chapters are spending like 5 minutes, but 8 people who go on this sync meeting weekly are saving 30 minutes. So kind of like it's a small things, but you can save a lot of time by really putting lightweight process. And of course, going forward, we automated this, so now we don't even need to spend those 5 minutes. It's automatically pulled from likes of Jira and so forth. Second example I want to talk is that you need to create templates and then delegate. So as a technical manager, I'm managing chapter leads and technical leads. I don't manage direct reports anymore. And what I'm doing to survive, because I still need to deliver a lot of work to customers, is that I build a template for something like if I want to clearly define responsibilities in the team, I would rather ask the team to provide me some data. I would pull some kind of template, ask the right question from the team, and then give them the opportunity to reply with what they think are their responsibilities, and then just go with it instead of sitting for 6 hours, just scratching my head real hard as a manager and thinking, okay, what is the responsibility set? So quickly, last 2 points. So share with other teams and build relations. This is useful when you are kind of in this mood already of building the process. You can now help other teams build the process. How it helps you? Well, pretty much you are limited within the department by your kind of like influence, the teams you manage or the team you manage, or leading technically, right? And you cannot influence directly or ask other chapters or teams directly to do something. But instead, you can have this kind of cultural revolution and tell them how to be performant. In that case, they won't impact your performance like they do now, maybe in your organization. So it's really nice to have this coaching effort. It's really, gives back. And then finally, you need to only do the operational work. If otherwise, you'd be fired. That's a bit of an overstatement, but I really ask myself when I'm doing something operational and I cannot think of any way to automate this or delegate this or put it into the process. I think, okay, like, really, do I need to do this, or it's not that interesting for everyone? Because with this remote setup, you always get asked to do a lot of things, and sometimes people don't realize or don't indicate the priority, especially if they do that asynchronously via Slack. It's hard to get a notion of importance. So really think hard. If you still need to do operational work, then think, okay, will I be fired? And that gives you an idea of how important it is. Bonus points, something I started doing actually just last week. I started writing down in the end of the day for 5 minutes, what impact have I done? Not the task that I done, not the operational work that I done, but what have I changed in my team, in the company? What impact have I made? And if you see this list growing every day, then you're on the right path. So my point here, basically, this is not something new. We're all thinking about operational work. We all try to avoid it or refactor it a bit. But just take it on the next level. Think hard about every detail you used to. Maybe you're having those sync meetings for now a year or something and you got used to them. But rethink that, challenge yourself, and think what can you do to be productive and what impact you're making on your team. Thank you. Now I'm ready to take questions. Let me stop sharing.
So, you mentioned you helped building a remote team, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, what strategy do you do for breaking the ice with the people? Because this is something that I myself struggle a bit. I always end up traveling to the place at some point. So yeah, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, that's a very nice question. So remote team building is more challenging, right? So what I'm usually doing, I'm trying to be much more transparent than I'm usually is, much more passionate, and be much more open about myself as a person, right? So something I would never do in office, like talk about maybe my like personal struggles, I don't know, as a manager. So whatever you felt in your past and you're not super comfortable sharing, but still can do, just do it. And when you open up, even remotely, people will start opening up in return. So this is really like a powerful tool. Did I answer your question, Luiz? Would it help? What do you think?
No, definitely you did. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so obviously, as you can probably see in the comments down below, you're on mute, David. I think is probably the quote of 2020. You know, with everybody going remote, you know, it is probably the quote. And second of all being, can somebody please mute their mic? So obviously, Mitya, with the, I suppose, a question just for myself previously, is like, we previously spoke about you guys in Holland obviously being a bit more flexible, a bit more remote.
Yeah.
But just from our perspective, obviously from where we were a couple of months away from being, I suppose, agile enough to kind of have the productivity to work remotely. So how did you guys deal with it so quickly, and how did you react to it?
Yeah, well, first of all, Luiz, you want to start first? No?
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so first of all, like in Netherlands,
still there?
I think it's...
Okay, so I go first. So the question was about, let me just reread it, about how to measure if we have a good culture in a nutshell, how you implement the good culture. Well, there were so about my experience, about the recent experience at Greetz. What we did was. From me, I would get asked all the times, hey, that person's not helping me, that guy from the other team or something. So when it starts to get toxic, when it starts to get like the amount of complaints is not constructive, because sometimes people complain about stuff that can be fixed. So if the complaint is more on the personal side instead of the problem, I knew something was wrong there. How we changed it at Greetz was also slow, but the stability was one of the things that I have used to change. Not everybody adapted to the culture of small deploys or not coding the whole project before you deploy. So some of the toxic people ended leaving the company. Even though the initiative was to try to educate people, not everybody agreed. So by the end, it was a process that was fixed initially with the stability. Transparency helped a lot, as Mitya mentioned. So from Brazil, we are not transparent at all. We just do stuff and inform people, hey, it's got done, by the way. So I changed my ways here. I started, hey, guys, I'm trying to do this in order to achieve that. What do you think? I'm putting effort here. I need your help. What do you think, etc. So getting the follow-up questions going, and sometimes changing the strategy with the feedback. So people got the feeling of being involved, of being more part of it. Because by the end, there were like a few silos at Greetz, and one silo was doing amazing, like everybody was the best and everybody else sucks. So at some point, everybody started to do their work without mentioning that it was somebody's fault or whatever. Mitya?
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Luiz. So we're still on talking about Netherlands adjusting to remote work, right?
Yes. No, actually,
okay.
The question was, sorry, where was it? Sorry, do you want to answer it there, Luiz? There was a question there. So, as managing managers, how do you measure their impact so you implement the good culture? That was
that's a wonderful question. Thanks.
That was a question from
first of all, I'm still learning to do that. Right, I'm doing that for now like 6 months, and everyone seems to be happy. But still, what I can share, Phil, is that you pretty much apply the same guidelines you apply to yourself, right? And what I'm doing with managers so far that I manage is I'm really trying to change their mindset from being reactive to events, like, hey, suddenly we don't have a person and we need someone to do stuff, so now we need to hire, right? To be proactive, like, okay, what is my capacity plan and how do I manage this? What is my vision for the chapter? So I'm helping them think long term, right? And I also encourage them to be there for the people, have regular one-on-ones. And of course, I gather feedback regularly from their direct reports, which gives me a nice overall picture, right? But like performance-wise, since we're talking about productivity today, I'm really trying them to be proactive and plan ahead and realize that they are the vision of their chapter together with the team.
Yeah. So the thing with the one-on-ones and plannings and sharing is key, definitely. I was lucky at Greetz. I had a really good mentor, the CTO, by the time the previous CTO was there. Like, he taught me so much on the organizational side of things. On the process that you need to do, like the one-on-ones, the bi-monthly reviews, etc. Like, if you have the focus on helping people, the culture also gets a positive impact.
Okay, great. So another question, just I suppose for both of you, and I suppose you can answer either time. So I suppose what's the main thing, and what's it like being a remote leader through these times?
Well,
interesting, challenging. Go ahead, Luiz. I will follow up after you.
Yeah, actually, the challenging part is true. Like most of the times that I worked as a leader, it was in person. Remotely, the challenge for me was to get to break the ice. Once the ice was broken, things got smooth. So again, I didn't change much because of COVID, because we already were mostly remote there. But I think it just felt like natural for. I'm not very social, so it was also good. I know it appears I'm social, but I'm not.
Yeah. I also usually after the meeting, if it is intense, I need to have some time to decompress. So it's actually good to be remote in that regard. But what I want to state here is that what helped me personally with this transition to remote for the teams which were not remote before is that I realized very fast that it won't be 1 month, 1, 2, 1. This is a long-term thing, and you need to plan your activities with remote work accordingly. So just assume that remote work is there to stay. It will be probably there for years now in some form, right? Maybe we will be mixing office and remote, but remote is here to stay, so you need to plan accordingly, and that helps when you start to do that.
Okay, great. So, look, I suppose that's if there's any more questions, we can definitely take them. So, and if not, obviously, look, I want to thank everybody for attending. I want to thank obviously Luiz and Mitya for obviously for presenting. Hopefully, it won't be the last time we see any of you on these events. Hopefully, we do plan on running one again in September. So there will be follow-ups with everybody on the call in the next couple of weeks, just to kind of get obviously opinions. If there's anything else, maybe any other topics that people would be willing to hear or speak about, it would be appreciated. So, yeah, I just want to thank you all again for attending, and it was great to obviously virtually meet people. Hopefully, in a few months' time, when time allows, we can do it in person. I think everybody will appreciate that as well. So, yeah, that's all for me. If you guys anything to sign off with, Luiz or Mitya?
Well, just thank you guys. Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Luiz.
Thank you, guys. Mitya gave some gold advice, especially on the turning the notifications off. And also, no, really, nothing funny.
It's easy. You go to the settings on your phone and you turn them off, just like that.
Like since I got remote, I have like my calendar. Okay, so 5 o'clock, I'm shutting everything down. I'll just be available tomorrow. So sometimes working on a specific place of your at your house helps, or working on a coffee shop or whatever. Oh, not coffee shop in the Amsterdam sense, in a cafe. So yeah, well, from me, everybody, thanks for your time. I know it is not easy to find time nowadays. I know like everybody has kids or something happening. The weather is nice, but you're still there with us. So, well, I'm proud to have had you guys listening to us. And yeah, thank you all. Stay safe. Now, Mitya.
Yeah, again, thanks everybody. And since we start in the community here, right, David, if you have any questions, if you want to discuss productivity or remote management, feel free to reach out, find me on LinkedIn. I'm available. I will talk to you. So yeah, not saying goodbye. And thanks.
Good one.
Definitely. So I think we'll probably leave it at that, guys. So really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you all again next month. And in the meantime, there will be follow-ups, and hopefully you do get something out of it, and that's the whole intention. So take care, everyone. We'll see you then. Okay.
Cheers.
Bye.
Okay, cheers. Bye.